Hello y'all, welcome or welcome back to Case Can Probably Read. My name is Casey and you can't prove otherwise. I'm going to do just a really quick TBR for May and talk about Asian Readathon. I'm not going to go over the prompts because I can't remember them and I'm recording on my phone, so I can't really look them up. And also I don't want to. I will go ahead and link Cindy's information. With Cindy is the creator that puts this on every year. And so this is the third year I'm going to participate, hopefully successfully, because I haven't always been successful in the past. She comes up with about 5 prompts that kind of help readers to engage with Asian literature, whether that be books that have representation of Asian characters or books by Asian authors. Those are all prompts that she's used in the past. And so it is a really good way to just broaden your horizons and read from some authors that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. I know she's based the prompts on the movie Joyride, which I think is coming out this summer. I haven't really assigned these books to any specific prompts from the readathon yet, because the prompts are so open that most of the time you read one book and it could fit almost all of the prompts. So I'm just going to kind of read what I can and then match them to the prompts as I go as I read them. I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the books that I'm hoping to read. Not a guarantee that I will, just some that I have my eye on. The first book I kind of have my eye on this month is Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto, who is a Chinese-Indonesian author. I actually don't know much about this book, except that it is a romance. All I know is that I found it on a list of romances by Asian authors, and I've also heard a couple of other booktube creators talk about it and seem to have good things to say about it. So I do have the audiobook checked out. I've started to listen to it, haven't really gotten very far into it. And the interesting thing is that so far, it's not just like one culture. The author wrote a preface, I think at the beginning of the book, about how her family came from China and settled in Indonesia, and then she later ended up going to Singapore for school, and so her family is trilingual, but she mostly speaks English and her family mostly speaks the other 2 languages, so they do have a difficult time communicating. And so the author did use that kind of as a characteristic for her protagonist. It's kind of this melting pot of how they all have come together. So I think that could be a really interesting thing about this book. And I've already talked about it much more than I intended to. Second book I have my eye on is Arsenic and ADOBO by Mia P. Manansala, who I believe is Filipino-American. This was also on a list of romances that I looked up by Asian authors. And I know that I have heard a couple of other creators talk about this one. And I believe it's like a murder, I think it's a cozy mystery. And I really like the idea of marrying a cozy mystery with something that is not necessarily Western culture. So like a cozy mystery that's not set in like dreary Britain. So I like the idea of that. I'm looking forward to reading that one. I've checked it out through my library app, and we'll see if I'm able to get to that one. Another book that I am kind of looking at is Jade Fire Gold by June C.L. Tan, and I believe that the June C.L. Tan is Singaporean. I also know very little about this book other than it is a romance and it is also a fantasy. I really used to love fantasy. It used to be all that I would read. If it didn't have magic in it, I wasn't interested. I've kind of moved away from that. Maybe that was when I kind of started getting into more romance and specifically like gay romance. But I just am not, I don't have the drive to read as many fantasies as I used to. I have read a few this year, but they are also kind of like under that umbrella of gay romance. So they were like gay fantasy romance. And for some reason, it was able to work for me under those circumstances. But I haven't really found a lot that have worked for me under any other. The only 2 books that I read this year that weren't romance books were both fantasies. So, I mean, we'll see. Again, that's way too much information. It's a fantasy. I might read it. Move on, Casey. Okay, the next book in my TBR pile for this month is Exappeal by Cathy Yardley, who is Vietnamese American. That was actually surprising to me because I've read Cathy Yardley before and really enjoyed a few of her books. I didn't know that she was Asian. She does have a lot of protagonists that are Asian, and so I thought that was really cool, but I just didn't know that Cathy Yardley herself was Vietnamese. This is book number 3 in her Ponto Beach reunion series. I've read the first 2 and I really enjoyed the first 2. I've had this particular book sitting in my Kindle library since this fall. I am looking forward to finishing or getting further in that series. The next book on my list is This Way Out by Tufayel Ahmed, who is Bengali, I believe. I picked this book out as part of the, I think, Amazon First Reads program many months ago, and so it's been sitting in my Kindle library. I know it is about a man. I wonder if the protagonist is Bengali as well. I'm not sure, but it's about a protagonist who is getting married to a man, and I think he has to come out to his family, and so this might be the story of how he's doing that. I'm not sure exactly. I just know that's all of those little things are part of the recipe of this book. So I don't know if it is a romance. It might be more in the vein of like the Farhad Dadyburjor books of, it's not there's a romance, but it's not necessarily about the romance. It's more about the journey of this character. So I get the feeling it's more like that. But we'll see. Speaking of Farhad Dadyburjor, I read one of his books last year, The Other Man. And since that one really went well and I enjoyed reading it, I decided that I would see if he had any other books. And he does. I think the title of it is How I Got Lucky. I honestly don't know what it's about. I know that there's like a connection to Bollywood. I think it's maybe like a reporter or some kind of journalist that gets connected with a Bollywood star. So I don't know exactly what this one's going to turn out to be, but I did like the book that I read last year by Dadyburjor, so I'm hopeful that I will also enjoy this one. And this next book was on my list last year. I did not end up getting to it. Like I said, I did finish the prompts, but I did not end up reading this particular book. And that is The Ivory Key by Akshaya Raman, which I've had since last March and I still have not read. So I'm hopeful that this is the moment. I have a physical copy of this book that I bought again last March. And for some reason, I've also found out in this past year that I have a harder time reading physical books than I used to. I have gotten into the habit of reading books on e-readers or on my phone, and I've just gotten so used to doing that and to the way that the book feels in my hands that I have a hard time flipping pages and looking at physical books now. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's just a me thing. That's where I am right now. And so yeah, we'll see about that one. On top of those books that I'll be reading for Asian Readathon, there are a couple of books that are being released in late April or early May that I'm hoping to read this month. The first of which is Romance Languages by A.J. Truman. I think it's called South Rock High. That might be the name of the series, is like South Rock High. I've read the first two in this series. It's kind of cheesy, but I really like it. It's heartwarming and wholesome and all the good stuff. My favorite one of the series so far has been the second one that followed the drama teacher, because it was just really funny. There was some funny banter and the teacher was just beautifully dramatic, and I enjoyed that one a lot. So I'm hoping to read Romance Languages this month. Other than that, there is also Cherry Picked, I believe, is the name of the book, and it is by May Archer. It is the third in her Sunday Brothers series. I want to say it's a trilogy. I don't know if there's going to be any more books after this, but it's called Cherry Picked, and each of these books has followed one of the Sunday Brothers. They're a group of brothers that run an apple farm in Vermont, in this tiny town called Little Pippin Hollow. It's very much like Hallmark-esque. May Archer is like the queen to me of small town romance, small town gay romance. This is the third one in the series, Cherry Picked. I think it follows the youngest brother, whose name is Hawk. And again, I've read all of the ones leading up to this one. The second one is my favorite. I can't remember what that one was called. I'll put the books up here so you can see them. My favorite one is whichever one is the second one. May Archer is probably, if she's not my favorite author of gay romance, she's like tied for first. I just like it. I like her dialogue. I like her humor. And she's so good at writing these cute little small town romances in these different settings. She also has an entire series based in a small town called O'Leary in New York. And that one has about like 5 books plus a bunch of short stories that are attached to it. So much fun. If you're just looking for something that's lighthearted, that won't like make you cry your mascara off, but will give you some feels, like, I definitely recommend May Archer, anything that she's written. So those are the ones that I definitely hope to get to. I have a bunch of kind of like half-started books in my Kindle library right now that I might finish and I might not finish. So we'll just kind of have to see where the month takes us. That's all I have for you right now. I don't know when my next video will be. No promises. There is no consistency here. Do not expect it. If my brand of awkward appeals to you, please feel free to like this video, subscribe to my channel, yada, yada. And until next time, I don't know. Live your life. Bye.